So if you're going to tell us about that bear, you should start from the beginning when you first heard about it
Yeah.
and how it got its history.
And I'll throw up some pictures here for everybody. I got them up here while Eric's talking.
So Zip Tie, I named him Zip Tie somewhere around 2010, give or take a year or so there. He actually got caught in a wolf snare. Local trapper was trapping wolves and hooked that bear, and the bear broke the snare. Well, then from that point forward, he just nobody ever seen a wolf break a wolf snare, but they kind of figured it was a bear. I assume they had some hair for evidence, whatever. And then all of a sudden there was this local bear was kind of being spotted here and there and seen on the baits and seen on camera and this and that. And as soon as I seen that, he was a pretty small bear, I guess, when I started hunting him. But I shouldn't say I started hunting him. When we first kind of really got on his radar, he was probably in that 350, 400 pound range at that point. And they were fall hunts. And then all of a sudden, he started becoming a legend because you could identify him so easy. It wasn't hard to see that it was him. I don't know if you'll see it in this video here quite clear, but some of the
see right there. Yep.
Yeah, you can see the white ring around his neck where the snare had been. So I put a friend of mine that I had taken up there probably 6 years ago, is my best guess. I put him on him because he was coming into this bait pretty regular in the daylight. There you can really see it. And he come in, kind of funny how it started. This zip tie bear, he'd only frequented that one bait one time, but there was another bear that was every bit as big as him that had a white chest. And I had told Tom, I said, Tom, this white-chested bear had been here 3-4 days in a row in the daylight. Don't shoot any bear other than that big white-chested bear. Just because he's a giant, he's probably going to show up. And I didn't want him to make a common rookie mistake and shoot the first bear he's seen, and it was a small one. Well, he come back that night. I said, did you see anything? He said, oh, yeah, I seen all kinds of stuff. And he said, a pretty good one that I didn't shoot. Well, he showed me the video, and who do you think it was? It was Zip Tie. And I said, Tom, why did you not shoot that bear? He said, because you told me not to. You told me just to shoot the white-chested one. And I said, well, you listened way too well because Zip Tie is a you just had the first chance of anybody I know of to shoot him, and you let him walk away. So then it was game on for Zip Tie. Well, 2 days later, he did come back, and Tom put a pretty marginal shot in him. Actually, it was a kind of a poor shot, and I hate to bust his chops like that, but it was a poor shot. We never recovered him. Very confident that he was still alive. Kind of funny in this video, you see him sniffing that bear scat there. That was one of the tricks we played with him, is we actually took some scat from another bait 15, 20 miles away and brought a couple different bear piles in and put in here just to make him think somebody was in his turf. So that worked out well. Getting back to Zip Tie, he had been seen by several people on camera. This is a 2013 picture you have up right now. So
yeah,
9 years ago, I guess he wasn't an overly big bear, but you can see the snare there. So it kind of got down to a point where the first part of this hunt, we really utilized the cameras up there and don't waste our time in areas that are not producing the bears we're looking for.
Can you bring that picture back up once?
The small when he was
the last one. Can I ask you something about that, Eric?
Please.
That bear looks a little taller than the barrel. So even though it's smaller in that picture in 2000, that's 13.
Yep.
It almost looks like he's just malnourished. Is that shortly after he got that snare on his neck?
I think that's within probably 3 years of that happening. And I completely agree with you, because for all these years, we've always talked about what that snare is doing to him. Is it going to choke him out? Is he having trouble eating? Does he still breed? All them things were question marks up until last Friday, when we actually got to put our fingers on him and learn a lot about what we kind of thought we knew but were unsure of. And I would agree with you 100%. He's got the height of a 250 to 300 pound bear. He doesn't have that girth. I mean, I look at the gap between his belly and the ground and how long his legs are, and it's kind of tough for me to tell with his neck and his head as far as how big that is. But he definitely looks to me like he's missing something. And it was one of the questions we always asked about him. Does he just take it real easy? Does he not get, overly aggressive fighting? Does he not do the things that a typical mature boar would do, just for the simple fact he's a little starved for oxygen? If you put a dog collar around your neck, you don't have to tighten it real tight before it really starts to impede your ability to eat, to breathe, things like that. We had some
maybe it just maybe just for the first couple of years he was really shy about it too, and then he got used to it and learned how to deal with it. Maybe
I would imagine, it's just like anything. If you have any kind of impediment, you're going to kind of adapt to it and learn how to work around it. And I always felt like that snare was probably, because most snares are going to have a locking mechanism, it had probably really tightened up on him, it would be my guess, when he pulled out of it or broke it, which in turn, if that snare worked properly, the tighter he pulled, the tighter it would asphyxiate him. But apparently, somehow, by some miracle, it didn't. I mean, when I shot him, he wasn't malnourished. I promise you that. He was very short. That's one thing that it was kind of surprising when I first laid eyes on him in person. I thought, geez, he's a tank, but not as long as what I would expect him to be. A bear that big typically is longer. And that could have very well been something that, his bone structure and everything didn't grow or didn't develop 100% because of lack of food, lack of oxygen. I don't know, but he definitely grew into himself. But we're talking 11 years after, or 9 years after that picture too.
And how old do you think he is in that picture?
I don't have an exact age on when he got snared. I kind of did the math and I put some numbers into my head what my best guess was. I don't have any facts to base this off of. He could have been a 2-year-old when he got snared. He could have been 8 years old when he got snared. I'm thinking it's likely to me this bear will come back around that 20-year-old mark this year. So in that picture there, I would guess he's probably somewhere in that, 9, 10.
Okay.
Just my best guess. Some of it's fact-based, some of it's just a guess. But yeah, you can see he's not a young bear in that picture. He's just, I agree, he's missing something.
Right, it'll trick you. When I first looked at it, I thought, oh, it's a tiny bear, and then I'm looking at the barrel, and I'm like, whoa, wait a second here. He's fairly tall, so it's more, he doesn't have the meat on him.
I agree with you. I agree 100%. So I guess to kind of round out the history with him, Tom had wounded him. We chased him, never found him. Felt 100% like he was going to live is what I thought, because I went back, replayed the video in slow motion that he had, and it was pretty well obvious to me that he had kind of cut through. I thought he had gut shot him is what I thought at first, but he hit him so low that I think all he did was really cut skin, and the bear was laying down when he shot him. So the exit actually went through his left paw. Just by the way I was tracking him, I was finding the blood. Every time he would step, I would find a little dab of blood in the moss. And that kind of told me that was on his foot. After replaying the video and kind of watching it closer with that theory, that's sort of what told me, yeah, he stuck a hole in his foot and cut the bottom of his belly is all he did. So this right here, I don't know that you got any audio with this, but this is actually kind of the ending of the story. Is when I got him on camera early in the week, I had a picture of him, and as soon as I seen it, I thought, wow, that's zip tie for sure. I never got a picture of him the rest of the week. And it would have been probably around the 8th night, I suppose, 8th night of hunting, last night actually. This sow that's in front of him in this video, the one that's sitting at the barrel right now, she was coming in every day. Every single day I seen her, she'd come in. There was probably 2 other sows in that bait. Kind of got to a point where I felt I'm not seeing the bears I want. There was a real good 325, 350 pound boar that I could have shot a couple times. And don't get me wrong, that's an amazing bear. It just really wasn't what I was looking for. So my whole goal was to wait for one of these sows to come in heat, because I felt like if he was in the area, and there's a couple other bears up there too that are every bit as big as him that we know about. And I kind of thought, the first sow in heat here is going to have probably the biggest bear behind it. And that's exactly what, kind of transpired. She come in every day. I just bought my time. And then the last night she come in with him behind her. And, it was one of them situations where, as crazy as it is, I have a bear in my shop that's pretty close to the same size as him. Maybe not quite as big, but just about as big. I killed him in the same exact spot, within one day. I think I killed him June 4th, and zip tie was June 3rd. Kind of that rut week is I target that for a reason up there, because this kind of guy is the one that moves around in the daylight when them sows come in heat. But it sort of turned into one of them things where it was almost like I started hyperventilating when I seen it was him. I wasn't overly excited when I seen the bear. I was overly excited when I seen the zip tie around his neck. I'm like, oh my God, that is him. And he come, and I had thankfully about 20 seconds to talk myself off the ledge before the shot was going to come. And he was in a bad position. He was perfectly broadside for a second. I started to draw. He quartered toward me, so I let down. It seemed like a day, but it was probably 5 seconds later. He turned broadside for me again, and I got the bow back, but his vitals were pretty close to covered by a tree. So I kind of had to wing an arrow right on the border of touching a tree. I shot him maybe 2 inches forward of what I would like to have, but it was kind of what I had. He crashed out of there like a bulldozer, like they all do, and 50, 75 yards later, I could hear the crash, and I could hear him wheezing, trying to get oxygen. And it was sort of, that was the time to sit there for a half an hour and try to calm down so I didn't fall out of the stand getting down. Pretty exciting. Very exciting. And the friends I had with me, you know, they made it even probably better yet, just because they were as excited about that bear as I was. Ken, the guy that runs the place up there, Ken was unbelievably excited, by far the most excited I've ever seen him. It was a legend. You know, that bear was kind of a legend up there, and he was very, very happy that one of his hunters, being me, got to harvest him. It's pretty amazing.
That is cool.